Hi guys, it's Bob from the Guitar Show here, reporting in from Kempton Park Racecourse, where the London Guitar Show is in full swing, and I'm exhibiting some of my pieces on a stand that's put together by the Burst Believers book publisher, David Clues. So let me introduce you to a few guitars. First on my right is, and you've seen this if you've seen the videos before of mine, this is my 59 ES 335. Pretty much mint condition. The only little twist to it is that the tuner buttons have been replaced with Lou Guitarness replicas because the originals crumbled, but everything else is there. You might notice the switch tip is missing. I've taken the switch tips off these guitars because that's about $400, $450 a time if you lose them, you know, if you get them nicked. So best leave them in my pocket. But that's the 335. Moving on quickly, this is my 61-62 Shoreline Gold Strat. Unusual for a Shoreline Gold, very yellow because the top coat has yellowed a lot, but it's quite highly checked. Everything about it's original except the saddles have been re-chrome plated. I know because I did it. It's had a refret because the guitar of this age probably needed it, and the frets are slightly bigger than your regular Fender frets, but then that goes well with its big neck, and the headstock decal has been chipped away, and that's been that way ever since I bought it in 1974. And the tremolo arm isn't original, but apart from that, great vintage Fender Stratocaster, huge neck, sounds great. Coming on to the famous one here, it's actually in the Burst Believers book down here. This is my 58 Les Paul Sunburst, in pretty much all original condition. For the really fussy, picky ones amongst you, you'll notice some idiot has chamfered the bottom of the pickguard slightly. That happened before I acquired this in the late 90s, and it's had a bit of a bump at some point in its life. It's not too life-threatening, but again, at this level of a guitar, the geeks are all out all over it. But a nice big fat neck, classic 58 neck profile, and you know, sitting at this guitar show and looking fairly pretty. Moving on fairly quickly, we've got a 54 gold top here. As you can see, switch tip taken off again. One for the geeks, the switch tip on the gold top is different to the switch tip on the 58. It's slightly taller, slightly browner, and a slightly flatter top. Or I think what they used to say about the chocolate bar, slightly rippled with a flat underside. It's one of those. Anyway, here's a pretty good condition 54 gold top, hasn't greened too much, tiny bit of shecking. Apart from that, all original, no issues at all. It's as you see it, no problem. Quite a weighty guitar, actually. Not the lightest of Les Pauls.
How many pounds?
It's something over 9 pounds. This is about 8 2/3. This is over 9 pounds, so it's a heavy guitar, but sounds good. The P90s from the early 50s tend to bark more, but coming on to the late 50s and early 60s, you've got one of the cleanest Les Paul TV Juniors you'll ever see in the world. And all the experts tell me this is the best one they've ever seen. It sounds incredible, plays like the wind, and is very, very clean, you know. No mess at all. Nothing wrong with this guitar at all. Fantastic flame in the tortoiseshell guard, everything original, real joy. And a slightly smoother late 50s, early 60s P90. And its brother is the matching TV special, again from early 60. Strangely, this guitar's serial number is earlier than this, but the neck profile is very definitely later. It's a thin neck. This is fat, but again, all original. The only thing, there's two funny things about this guitar. The first thing is, this guitar's been in my family since 1963. So this belongs to my dad. Someone has done some touch-up on the tuner buttons, which means somebody's tried to replace them. But that was in 1961 or 62. I don't think people did that. And the other really weird thing, this is really weird, somebody put a tailpiece on it, a trapeze tailpiece.
Strange, isn't it?
In 1961 or 2.
Normally the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah. And these 4 rusty screws are the only marks remaining.
Wow.
I mean, I was 8 years old, so I don't know what was going on. But actually, I was 8 years old when we bought it. So this is when I was 5 or 6. Before we owned it, somebody did that. But this has been in this condition in my house since 1963. So that's my collection. And then moving on to one of my colleagues on the stand, we've got a wonderful 64 ES335 here. Very close to serial number and shipping date to Eric Clapton's famous Cherry 335, and it's in lovely, lovely condition. All clean, everything original. By this time the switch tip is getting whiter. You've got the reflector knobs, block inlays, everything as it should be. And this gentleman's a specialist, as you'll see from what we're about to move on to. He just deals in Gibson thin lines. So this is also his. This is a 1959 ES335, similar to mine back there. A little bit yellower, very, very similar condition, lovely condition. Again, he's had the wisdom to take his switch tip off. Everything is as it should be, this kind of knobs. This is probably a little earlier than mine, because mine's a bit more three-tone, this is a bit more two-tone. But this is late enough, it's after 58, so it hasn't got the wrong neck angle. And this guitar plays like a dream. It's a really lovely guitar. Then we come to one of my favourite finishes. This is an ES355 from 1960 in what's called watermelon, which is the faded cherry, the unstable dye they used back in the day. And again, this is an interesting guitar because it's mono. That makes it rarer. Should have a veritone. So it makes it rarer, much more covetable, much more playable. Period correct knobs for early 60. They became the reflector knobs a few months later. Paffs, gold plating, lovely Bigsby, tortoiseshell, God knows how many ply guard with binding, standard Grovers and beautiful yellow fade on the headstock. In a pretty gorgeous 5-latch case as well. So this is the whole deal. And finally, from the same collector, he really is a specialist, a custom issue 345 from 1963. This would have been called just a regular Sunburst by Gibson, but it's almost faded to the colour of what Gibson and Epiphone used to call Argentine grey, which is that kind of greyish yellow paler Sunburst. But it's got the classic parallelogram inlays that I love. You know, standard Clusons gold with the, you know, tulips, single ring Clusons, stereo plate, and a veritone, of course. And this guitar would have a stereo jack, and the pickups would go out if you wanted to separate amplifiers. So another gorgeous guitar. And again, period correct, because the cases went yellow and black by then. So the full deal. So that's a little snippet of what we got on just one stand at the Kempton Guitar Show. I hope you've enjoyed it. Watch this channel because we have got a killer video coming up for you in just a few days. We're visiting another big collection and we should have some extraordinary and really, really rare stuff to show you. But until then, cheerio.